Everyone at the winter charity party had gathered around the giant Christmas tree, filled with gold-wrapped gifts and glittering ribbons. Laughter echoed through the mansion, until the room fell silent. A soft-spoken girl in a faded sweater stepped forward, holding two small presents wrapped in plain brown paper. Before she could speak, a rich girl in a sparkling dress burst out laughing loud enough for everyone to hear. "Is that seriously your gift?" she mocked. "Did you pick that up from the dollar store?" People stared. Some whispered. Some smirked. And as the poor girl stood there trembling, clutching her little handmade gifts, nobody knew the truth. Those cheap gifts would soon reveal a secret that changed every life in that room forever. The charity event at the Kingsley mansion was always the most glamorous part of the year. Expensive gowns, chandeliers dripping with crystal, and a Christmas tree so tall it nearly touched the second-floor balcony. Everyone arrived with gleaming boxes, shiny ribbons, and gifts that cost more than some people made in a month. Among them was Ella, a quiet, humble girl who never fit in with the wealthy crowd. She had been invited only because her mother worked for the Kingsleys as a housekeeper, and Mrs. Kingsley insisted that the staff's children be included. Ella entered the mansion with just two gifts, small, neatly wrapped with brown paper and tied with twine. She had worked for weeks knitting a scarf for the host's grandmother and carving a tiny wooden ornament for the children's toy fundraiser. She had no money, only skill and a heart full of love. But the moment she stepped into the grand hall, the difference between her and the others hit her like a wave. Girls her age flaunted designer dresses, glittering jewelry, and professionally styled hair. Ella's simple dress, worn shoes, and anxious eyes made her stand out instantly. And that's when Valerie Kingsley noticed her, the richest girl at the party, the one everyone admired. Valerie walked over with her two best friends trailing behind her like shadows. "What are those?" Valerie asked loudly, pointing at Ella's simple packages. Ella swallowed nervously. "Just gifts I made." Valerie snatched one from her hand, turning it over mockingly. "This is the ugliest wrapping I've ever seen. Did you run out of money for real paper?" Her friends giggled cruelly. A few adults looked over but didn't intervene. Nobody wanted conflict during the party. Ella felt her cheeks burn. "It's not about the wrapping," she whispered. Valerie smirked. "Obviously. Because you couldn't afford anything better." Children and adults alike had stopped talking. All eyes were on them now. Mrs. Kingsley, standing across the room, saw what was happening and started walking toward them, but Valerie continued, enjoying the attention. "Why even come here if you can't bring real gifts? My dog has better toys." Ella kept quiet, refusing to cry. She had learned long ago that crying only gave bullies more fuel. But her silence only made Valerie more confident. Then, something unexpected happened. A boy stepped out from behind the Christmas tree. Mrs. Kingsley's nephew, Evan, quiet, observant, and well known for his kindness. He had been watching everything. Though calm, his eyes burned with anger. But before he could speak, Valerie raised the small wooden ornament Ella had carved and said, "Let's just throw this out. No one wants cheap trash." The room gasped. Ella froze, her heart cracking. And before anyone could react, Ella turned away and ran out of the hall. Ella found herself outside in the cold winter air, breathing heavily, her eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold. She sat on the stone steps of the mansion, hugging her arms as the snow began to fall. The laughter inside felt like it still echoed in her ears. She wondered if bringing those gifts had been a mistake, but she couldn't afford anything else. Her heart was heavy with shame. Moments later, the doors creaked open and Evan stepped out, holding the wooden ornament Valerie had tried to throw away. "Ella," he said softly, "don't listen to her. Your gift is beautiful." Ella sniffed. "It's just wood. She's right. It's nothing compared to what everyone else brought." Evan knelt down beside her. "You don't understand. I watched you carve this last week in the staff's lounge. The detail, the care, it's more meaningful than any store-bought gift in that room. Ella looked up, surprised. She didn't realize anyone had seen her. Before she could respond, they heard raised voices inside. Mrs. Kingsley had arrived at the scene, furious. Valerie was trying to defend herself, waving her hands dramatically. It was just a joke. She's too sensitive. Mrs. Kingsley cut her off sharply. A joke? Humiliating someone who came here with love in her heart is not a joke. You owe her an apology. Valerie crossed her arms stubbornly. Why? She brought cheap gifts. Mrs. Kingsley stepped closer, her tone firm. And your expensive gifts? What do they mean? Did you buy them with kindness or just your father's credit card? The room fell silent. Realizing she had gone too far, Valerie rolled her eyes but mumbled. I'll apologize. Mrs. Kingsley replied. No. You will do more than that. She lifted the brown paper-wrapped scarf Ella had made for her mother. Carefully unwrapping it, she held it up for everyone to see. Gasps filled the room. The scarf was beautiful, hand-knit with intricate patterns and a level of skill few could achieve at that age. This, Mrs. Kingsley said, is priceless. Because it was made with effort, time, and heart. Something money cannot buy. Valerie's expression shifted from annoyance to embarrassment. Just then, Evan walked Ella back into the hall, holding her hand supportively. Ella felt every eye in the room turn to her again, but this time, the stares were different. Curious. Respectful. Guilty. Mrs. Kingsley approached her gently. Ella, thank you for this gift. My mother will cherish it more than any diamond in this room. Ella blinked in shock. Her hands trembled. Then something even more surprising happened. One of the older guests, a retired art teacher, picked up the wooden ornament. Did you really carve this by hand? She asked. Ella nodded shyly. The woman smiled. This is remarkable craftsmanship. You have real talent. Suddenly everyone wanted to see her work. Children admired the ornament, adults complimented the scarf, and Ella found herself surrounded by warmth instead of ridicule. Valerie slowly walked up, clearly uncomfortable. Ella. I'm sorry, she forced out. Not perfect, not sincere, but a beginning. The night continued, and for the first time, Ella didn't feel like an outsider. Her simple gifts had become the most treasured symbols of the entire evening. And as she stood there, with Evan smiling proudly beside her, she realized. Sometimes the smallest gifts carry the biggest meaning. And sometimes the poorest hearts are the richest of all.